This is weird. This is a weird thing to say. This video is sponsored by my friend Brian, who let me borrow his camera for like 60 years.
Hello everyone, hello from San Antonio, Texas. My name is Brian and I'm a big fan of this channel right here, so I figured I'd help it out by sending off a few cameras that I personally enjoy. We'll start off with the Olympus XA.
Alright, this camera, the Olympus XA, awesome timing. I know Matt Day just posted about it, so now everyone's gonna be like, oh, Lou's ripping him off. Well, joke's on you. I've had this camera in my possession since 2018. I'm just a fuck up. Hey, you guys know on this channel I'm all about being thorough. Actually, it's a bit more complicated than that, so let me tell you a story. Brian sent me the camera, kindly including the instructions. I didn't read them. Screwed up my first roll badly, thinking this slidey boy here was the shutter speed control. It wasn't. Went on a hike. It was nice. I tripped. I fell. I'm okay. Destroyed the camera. That wasn't mine. Nice. The photos all started looking like this. Must have been something wrong with the shutter. Excellent. Went to buy a new one. Took a long time to actually win an auction because turns out this is a hypebeast camera. Got a new one. Nice. Read the manual. Even nicer. Then I shot a bunch of rolls of film, and here we are. Oh my god. So why did it take me so long? Well, I have to be honest here, and I'm not trying to be a contrarian or anything like that, but I really didn't enjoy using the Olympus XA. But before you slap the fuck out of that dislike button, let me just say this. I can see why people love it. It's just not my cup of coffee. And saying I didn't like it at all, it's not entirely fair. There's aspects of the experience I enjoyed, but the camera itself, we'll get to that. So if you can't really tell, very similar to how I feel about the Final Fantasy VII remake.
I wish I could walk past this chair, but I can't because I'm dummy thick.
I'm a little conflicted, I don't know how to feel. But for now, let's focus on why we're all really here. Photography. The photos. Let's look at the photos. It took me a minute to get there, but I got to a point where I started making photos I was happy with on the XA. It's really important to me that I get to know a camera well enough to not just be taking snapshots with it. I gotta make something slightly better than mediocre, you know what I'm saying? Even though I'm sure some of the boomer comments are gonna let me know that everything I do is mediocre. You can make some really stunning photos with the Olympus XA. It has a razor sharp 35mm f2.8 lens, so you can get some really nice bokeh along with your tones. In my opinion, the XA seems to be geared towards two things, street photography and a sort of tourist camera. It's a small beam that can fit in any coat, in your jeans, in your lunchbox, up your ass, whatever advances your frame, you know what I'm saying? And that, my friends, is the only aspect of the XA I can say that I truly loved. I was able to bring the Olympus XA into concerts because no one looked at it like it was anything more than just a little point and shoot. The XA joined me to see some of my favorite bands. It came with me to see Coheed and Cambria on the night that they released Unheavenly Creatures, their secret show in Manhattan, Streetlight Manifesto on their recent tour at the end of 2019. It's perfect for stuff like that. It's so discreet, and most importantly to me, it's not the type of camera that's gonna bother the musicians or the other people at the show. I had it with me at my buddy's bachelor party. We made some memories that night for sure, or lost some, I don't really remember. This photo kinda sums up the night perfectly for me. It came with me to Hawaii, even though at that point I was on Olympus XA the first and I didn't realize that it was fucked up at this point, so all my shots looked like this. Glad I preserved those memories. It was so easy to just toss this camera into the bag and just have it with me, always. It accompanied me to the big events and the mundane, and that's pretty cool. And if you're a regular around here, you might be saying to yourself, wow, some of these locations look really familiar. And you'd be right in thinking that, because all these other times I was out shooting videos like the X-T30, the X Pro 3, the Discord challenge I did, for all those videos, I had the XA with me, so I was snapping pictures along the way. If that's not proof of the fact that this camera can come with you every day wherever you go, I don't really know what is. I hope you like this really eloquent segue into the next section where I talk about ease of use and ergonomics. And here's a fun little drinking game for you. Drink every time I use the word small. Do it at your own risk. If you end up in the hospital, it's not my fault. The Olympus XA has the aesthetics of a 35mm point and shoot camera, but it actually offers manual control in a very small package. The camera is an aperture priority system, so you set the aperture and the camera will determine the shutter speed, which is displayed in the viewfinder. You set the ISO using this slidey boy right here. It's small and it's kind of annoying to set, but there it is, and you focus using the lever right below it. The focus throw is incredibly short, so short to the point where you might start second guessing the focus of all your shots. I certainly did for a while. But it really all comes down to the rangefinder. The rangefinder is something that I had a ton of issues with. Man, if you're in the wrong lighting conditions, the rangefinder might as well not even be there. It's this little tiny yellow patch, and sometimes I feel like when I'm focusing, I'm like that meme of the old lady lifting her glasses. Like, that's how I felt. And it's not very bright. If you're in slightly dark scenarios, like say a concert, it's pretty difficult to focus. But I will say the challenge of using that rangefinder led me to the bigger part of my journey with this camera. Apart from my dumbass story earlier, it almost felt like the design of the XA was meant to discourage you from traditional rangefinder focusing and encourage you instead to use zone focusing. Once I started relying more on zone focusing, I started getting better photos. I ended up worrying less and less about the rangefinder patch and just estimating the distance to nail my focus. And it worked out. In fact, most of the keeper photos in my gallery here were zone focused. And you'll actually notice the XA has f5.6 and 8 feet marked in orange. These are general baseline settings that will get a whole lot of the frame in focus. It's a great place to start if you're not confident with zone focusing. It was weird for me to hold something so small.
That's what she said!
And not have it be a point and shoot, you know what I mean? In every other way, this feels like a point and shoot, casual, I'm just shooting this for fun kind of system. But it's really not that. To me, the small body was really an issue. A lot of the dials and slidey boys were just a little frustrating to use, especially the ISO slider. I think if the camera was just a tiny bit bigger, you'd have more of that real estate to make it a little bit more comfortable to use. The size of the camera makes it really easy to accidentally finger the lens, you know, which isn't a great look. You gotta be a little careful about that. But you can decide for yourself if the size is an issue for you. It's a matter of personal preference. I like bigger, heavier cameras. Maybe it's because I've shot on DSLRs for so long. Maybe it's because I have
Big meaty claws!
Whatever the reason, I can tell you that the XA doesn't feel comfortable or natural in my hands. But I know a lot of people really like the size, so that's a you decision right there. The shutter button is extremely sensitive. I'm not gonna lie and say I never accidentally fired off a shot. I definitely did. The camera also has the dust barrier, which covers up the lens, but it also prevents you from accidentally firing shots. So that's a pretty cool feature, I guess. Is that a feature? It's a design. Whatever. But I do understand why the shutter is so sensitive. It's meant to be easy to fire and discreet for street photographers. It's easy and it's quiet. Alright, shh. And let me tell you, that's one of the things about the XA that's really cool. It's a very low profile camera. It doesn't look fancy or flashy, and the shutter is so damn quiet. Well, the camera is quiet in most regards. There is one outlier, and that's the battery check tone. That thing is the most shrill, obnoxious sound ever. That same switch will activate the backlight compensation, which will just kind of brighten things up a little bit if you have a backlit subject, and it also will allow you to turn on the self timer. And you can get a flash for the camera which screws right onto the side. Unfortunately, the one I bought doesn't seem to work. I've tried a bunch of different things, cleaning it out and different settings, and I can't get the darn thing to fire, so bummer. But they do exist. All you have to do is slide the aperture control up to the word flash and you're good to go. In theory, I didn't do it myself. But to sum it up, the camera is really small. It has a lot going on in a very small space. It's far from the most comfortable camera I've ever used. I feel like I can never get a good grip on it, mainly because there's no grip on it. It's a hybrid of metal and plastic, and while it does feel sturdy, we can confirm that one drop with me is more than enough to kill it. So, you know, maybe don't eat yours. But I think it really does come down to personal preference. If you're into small form factors, you're into the small dials and buttons, you might really love this camera. But for me, like I said before, it's just not my cup of coffee. There's something to be said about the Olympus XA. It's a very unique camera, and though I'm very conflicted on it, there's no denying the facts. It has a sharp lens, a decently fast aperture, and it can join you on whatever adventures you have in store for it. The size of the camera might not be for everyone, but I certainly encourage you to test one out if you get the chance. You might just find the perfect little companion for your everyday film needs. For me though, the search continues. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate the support, and a mega huge shout out to my friend Brian. This is his Instagram. Make sure you go follow him, show him some love. Brian, thank you for letting me use the camera. Thank you for letting me break your camera and letting me replace it with another one. Really appreciate you letting me hold on to it for so long too. But I hope this video was worth it. Maybe, I don't know. And guys, as always, make sure you smash that subscribe button, share this video. You can find me on the socials. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram and MySpace and Discord and TikTok and SoundCloud now for the podcast, which you'll be hearing a little more about soon. And yeah, not Facebook. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!
You okay over there? Like doing like an ant?
I got bit.
She got bit.
6 and 8 feet finder patch. Dumbass Let me kill myself. Dumbass There's something to be said about the Olympics.
Like and subscribe to Sweet Loop Photography. Come on.